All right, welcome back, everyone. It is Monday, back with my Monday talk with Cody Davis. So, morning, man.
Good morning.
Yeah, I
All
know
right.
we'll dig into it maybe after. I know you had a busy weekend. It looked like you were sending me some photos of some stuff you were working on. But I did also want to dig into your most recent video, Investing Goals for 2026. And you also had a very interesting one with Zuber recently where you kind of turned the table and you asked him the questions, right? You had some questions on your mind, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so how did
yeah,
was that planned, or you just were like, man, I want, you've been recording with him on a regular basis now on Mondays, right? And you're like, man, did I had some questions for him. So where did it all start from?
yeah. Well, a couple weeks ago, I asked him those questions, and the thought process was he always interviews me. Let me see what's going on in his world. Try and come up with some questions that he hasn't been asked before. So that
Nice.
was fun. It's fun
Yeah,
to turn the tables. We'll have to do that with you sometime.
absolutely. I like to showcase you guys more, but I think, like you said, it made Zuber think, right? He's like, oh man, I never got asked some of these questions. So that was a lot of fun though. But let's see. I think the first, where was it? The first question you asked him though, right, was what decision weren't you qualified to make, right? And then it kind of ended up him telling a story. But what were you hoping to learn from that question?
Well, everybody has to make tough decisions, and that question was, what was the last decision you had to make that you weren't qualified to make? He had mentioned, if I recall correctly, he killed the Facebook group really and moved on to school, and when he didn't really know a whole lot about it. So it was cool to hear that perspective. I found myself in situations that I've had to come up with a solution I've never come up with before. And I think it's important to acknowledge that if you're in business for any period of time, you'll probably be in a similar situation. So I wanted to ask.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know that it was just a spur of the moment decision for him starting the school community. He just jumped into it. He had really no idea uh, what to expect, and I don't know the exact reason what upset him so much about Facebook. I know he had some problems there, and it was just like, you know what, I'm done with this. And yeah, he took off. He jumped into school, and I think it's been a great decision for him. And we got you involved in it, and I think you're finding out there's a lot of information there. And I think you like interacting with a lot of people in there also, right? Like, I think you just had coffee with Flavio, right, recently.
Yep. He came over. He wants to look at 1031ing some rental houses into a 12plex of mine. So we'll see. But either way, he wants to upgrade his unit count similar to how Zuber did when he sold off his residential stuff and bought some multifamily apartments. So Flavio's looking at those next steps now.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I want to point out is for a lot of people on the fence, maybe wanting to start a YouTube channel or start social media or something. I think this is my big takeaway is that, like I told everyone, like I get this opportunity to sit down with Cody, I get this opportunity to sit down with Zuber weekly, right? And if I had questions, we can bring it up on a live. I can bring it up like Cody was sending me photos of things he was working on this weekend. So I have this interaction that I can, if I had questions, I needed help with something, so that's part of this whole social. You may not be making a lot of money, if that doesn't have to be the goal, but it's just putting yourself out there to connect with people that you can bounce ideas off of. Before we get into the next part of your questions for Zuber, but Troy is asking, how's the weather in Moses, Cody? We are still dealing with flooding in my neck of the woods.
No flooding. It's very windy. It's like 45-mile-an-hour winds, so that's fun. But other than getting a frozen face when you're walking around, it's okay. But that's just desert living.
Yeah, I got my AC on right now. It's kind of warm still in Hawaii, but it rained all day. So yesterday was the Honolulu Marathon.
Yeah.
So that was yeah, it was raining all day, and then I had to sit in traffic trying to get to a flag, my son's flag football game. We left early to try to get there, and then as soon as we got there, they canceled the game. Then we had to sit in traffic heading back to the area because of the marathon. Yeah, it was. I don't know why they just didn't cancel it ahead of time because of the marathon. But I think your second question was about emotional decisions and discipline. Zuber said he repeated mistakes because of being emotional a lot of time. Does that resonate with you as an operator? Or are you kind of the opposite, you think?
Oh, making emotional decisions. Usually, my decisions are very logical. Usually, on occasion, there is a moment of weakness, make an emotional decision, but usually it's very logical. It either makes sense or it doesn't.
Okay, so so Zuber kind of mentioned that was maybe a flaw for him. He's disciplined but emotional, right? So for you, you being more maybe technical and whatnot, you're saying your decision, do you think in some ways is that a flaw for yourself, or how do you protect yourself against that?
Well, most people, if I had to categorize them as one or the other, I'd say they're more like Zuber. From my experiences and meeting with people, more people fall into that bucket. And so my flaw is I do what's logical, and that tends to offend some people. Because while it may be logical to me, it's not to them. And that could be an issue, character flaw.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part for me so far in maybe putting myself out there on social media is, if people do reach out and if they do have questions or they want to bounce something off, I think it's hard for me to always put myself in their position and where they're coming from, like trying to give them a response. I mean, like you're saying, I may give them, it may seem simple to me, or my response may make this much sense, but I'm not factoring in what the point of view or where they're coming from. So I think that's been a little difficult challenge for myself. Troy Roberts is asking, Cody, with all of the conversations you've had with owners and successful business people, what's been the most beneficial question you've asked? Oh, great question.
There wouldn't be a most beneficial question. There's a most beneficial topic. So the topic that's gotten me the most applicable next steps for my life were all around starting position and transitions. So where people start is important to know, because you have to recognize if they did something you can't do just because of their financial background. Now, a lot of them didn't have that. So that was good to know. It meant that a lot of their advice could be applicable to me. And then the more so than the starting point is the transitions. How do you transition from a job to full-time real estate? How do you transition from a fourplex to a 12plex? How do you transition from buying old stuff to buying new stuff? How did you transition from doing the purchases to doing the builds? The transitionary questions are what I needed to have enough confidence to go into a deal. And so originally I was talking with a guy who bought a whole bunch of old properties, and I learned about his start and then how he transitioned to the next stage in his portfolio, and eventually how he transitioned into new stuff. And that gentleman sold me a bunch of apartments and later sold me some brand new construction apartments. So it was those topics that were really helpful for me.
I see Gus tuning in, and then Charles. Charles is saying Gus in school really helped me finishing his realtor license. Ah, very cool. Let's see. So Zuber, you guys one of your questions, or he was talking about networking versus solo grinding, right? So I think a lot of us have heard Zuber talk about that, about him kind of, not really having a group of friends maybe in this space early on, right? He was kind of just on this mission by himself. And that's something he would maybe possibly do a little bit differently earlier, but he wouldn't trade it for where we're at, right? I think he kind of mentioned, right? I wouldn't trade having a better circle earlier in my career for this trade-off of how one rental at a time started, right? So how has it been for you? Because you started at a very young age. When like I said, for me, it was like that was like partying, college. It's like you have this whole group of friends at that time in the same place, right? But for you, you're kind of on a different path, I guess. So how was it for you finding your tribe, or how has it been for you in that sense of the matter?
It's just been meeting people along the way. I mean, a lot of them have met online. So, as in the social media thing helps. Putting yourself out there and being able to be on YouTube and going to meetup events. But I built the tribe just by putting myself out there one day at a time. It was nothing super complicated, just daily repetitions.
But do you think you could have been like Zuber, almost like where you would have been fine doing it by yourself? Like, I think he was okay with it right at that time. He kind of was just like, this is how it has to be done. And he looks back on it differently. But I think a lot of people that join the school community, they're looking for that kind of group, I guess, in a sense. But are you more of a person where it's like, if I did it by myself, it would be fine in a sense?
It would be fine. I've just always gone with the flow. So if it works one way, great. If it works the other way, it's fine. I was the type of student in school where I'd be happy getting a B if it meant I put in 10 minutes of work, whereas someone else would put in 8 hours and get an A. Wasn't that important? So I would go with the flow, and if it worked, it worked. And so I just find the most efficient path to make it work.
I think that's for me. I would probably like to say, I think you have to be comfortable doing it alone, but definitely try to find your people or your tribe or whatnot. But I think you have to find, because there's going to be a time where it's just you're going to have to be able to push through on your own. And sometimes I think that's the place you got to get comfortable with, but definitely go out and find people that are headed in the same direction. That's why the school community is so great, because you're finding so many people at different levels doing different things, rent by room, short-term rentals, multifamily, and everybody has a different path. And then even Curtis, PE turned RE. I'm sure you had to do one of these before, but he says he experienced a first, had to fill out a personal financial statement before a seller will meet.
Nice.
Mm, yeah. I know Dion, I think Dion has talked about that, right? He had no idea what to do when he first had to fill one out. He had to reach out to Lumberjack and like, hey, what do I do here? But I think also Curtis, I think he mentioned it on his live stream with Jack, Lynn, and Dylan yesterday, that it kind of opens your eyes possibly to how you are growing as an investor, right? If you're just looking at it from like a door count cash flow, you're kind of like, man, it's not growing as fast as I would like. But when you fill out a personal financial statement, you're saying, oh, I have this asset, I have this asset, it's worth this much. The it's been paid down this much by my tenants, and it's like, oh, okay, this stuff is actually working. So I think it really opened Curtis's eyes to maybe he doesn't want his family to know, because he's told them that he can't buy them Christmas presents. But I think he was surprised at his net worth after filling it out.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time you get a commercial loan, you're going to have to fill that out. So if you get one once a year, once every 6 months, however often you get one, you get a good check in on where you're at.
Before we get into Zuber's most emotionally painful moment kind of question you're asking him, but there is a question from your channel. Robert Martinez is tuning in, so thanks for stopping by. He says, Cody, I got an opportunity to buy a fiveplex in Pierce County. I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to multifamily. Not sure.
Yeah,
Are
it's not
you?
a question, but that's
Yeah.
cool.
Are you in school, Robert, or is there some? I mean, that's a great place to put that question, and I'm sure if you're looking for some responses or whatnot, I mean, that's a great place
Yeah.
to be.
Not even rephrase the question, because right now it's just a statement. But if you have specific questions on that deal, happy to jump into it. Like if you're curious about the location, Pierce County, the different areas, you got Tacoma where I grew up, which is pretty ghetto. And then you got surrounding areas. The landlord laws suck there, by the way.
Well, Robert, if you have more information, you can always shoot it in the chat, or Cody's all over social media too, so you can maybe message him there, and he can help you with a few things. I see Big Cody Evers here in Wisconsin. I believe he may have closed on a sixplex on Friday. I know he mentioned they were supposed to close, but I didn't see any message in our group chat. But hopefully he did. I see Janelle, Ike, Lynn tuning in. So good morning, everyone. But yeah, I guess one of the next questions you asked, Zuber, was talking about. I think he mentioned a painful moment in his journey, and kind of when he realized maybe he needed to change a little bit, and far as maybe how he wanted his path to change somewhat, right? So he started talking about like his legacy, the YouTube channel, the school community, and what he's trying to build, right? So do you have any type of like maybe painful, emotionally painful moment in this journey that is now like I feel like you're headed on a different path a little bit. Like you're trying to clean up your portfolio, right? You know, you're kind of you're very involved in the school community now, right? So, is there any moment for you that kind of really changed your mind on this path?
Yeah, I've had a couple different partners, business partners, that, and it's unfortunate that it's happened a couple times. They said they wanted to be one role or one thing in the org, and then come to find out that wasn't really their motive. I had this mistake in the beginning too. You say what people think, or what you think people want to hear, so that you get to advance the relationship. That's a big mistake. And both of these people said one thing, and then when it started working and the relationship started moving forward, the motives shifted. And I don't know that they actually shifted. It's just what they told me shifted. You only know what people tell you. That's the brutal reality. And so these people, and vastly different ages too, were telling me one thing to start the relationship. And then down the road, what they truly wanted was completely different. It was a 180. And so it just made things go different directions. And it is what it is. But that sucked both times.
Um, Hanson Liu from your channel is asking Cody, as a foreigner, can I do seller finance before I get the E2 visa? Hmm.
Well, seller financing is not exclusive to the United States. So whether you can or can't in the US, I'm not your guy. I couldn't tell you. However, I do know that vendor financing is synonymous for seller financing, and that's done all over the world. So I would look into that, where it's just where the vendor, the seller is taking payments for something. So
All
you
right.
could do that anywhere. I mean, anywhere that I've heard of. I haven't heard of a place you can't do that yet, but just make sure the collateral's right and the loan agreement's right. And if you're looking at investing in the U.S., you've probably talked to an attorney at this point already. But if you haven't, that's a good question for him.
Looks like Cody's closing got moved to Tuesday. Needed a little more time. All right. Well, keep us informed, man. Flavio, who, like I said, I think you made his year maybe ending 2025. He had he got to meet his idol. He said he had coffee with you recently, but he's asking, have you fired any partners? I guess.
I've fired myself from partnerships. There was a couple partnerships where the people were beyond tough to deal with. To give you an example, without giving you any specifics that anybody could point at a specific deal, you put in $5 and you turn it into $25, and the partner who didn't do any of the work accused the other partners of cheating and not making him enough money, that we were getting paid more than we should because we managed the deal, even though it was spelled out. That's not good. Like, you don't work with those types of people. If you 5x the money and you do all the work and you're compensated for it within the contract, and the partner doesn't want to play ball, that's not a good long-lasting relationship. So that one, my partner and I that were managing it basically said, all right, we're selling, and we booted out of that deal. A different deal, they didn't contribute enough in relationship to what they said they were going to contribute, and I'd over contributed. And so I just told them, look, I don't want to be in this. It's going to ruin our friendship. So I just sold out at a loss, lost 2 years of time and lost 5 figures of money, and ended up losing that relationship because they got weird. But sometimes you got to leave the friendships outside the partnerships.
Okay. See Harrison tuning in from Virginia. He says here for the mindset cheat code. Yeah, that's going to be the next question I believe you asked Zuber. But I want to follow up with Hanson Liu. Just followed up on his previous question. It says, I mean, invest in the U.S. I guess he's asking for his seller finance question. Oh, Before I get the E2V.
Well,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, like I mentioned, I wouldn't know all the rules around that. I know there are foreign individuals who invest in the United States, but I don't know the rules around it because I am not. I've never been born outside of this country, so I wouldn't know.
Harrison is asking Cody, would you ever buy one bedroom, one bath multis? I believe.
I've bought hundreds of those. Yeah, definitely in my market because a one bed, one bath is going to rent between $925 and $1,125 depending on the specific neighborhood. So you figure if you have 20 of those, it could be 20,000 a month of rental income and 12,000 a month of NOI.
For before we get into Hanson's next question, for Harrison's one about the one bedroom, one bath, would you still like? I think you touched on it before about your minimum rent amount. It would be like around 1,200 per door. You're talking about like to cover appliance. From that point of view, is that in your market one bedroom, one bath? Is it like 1,200 or?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
My highest one bedroom right now, which was built in 1952, but fully remodeled. Everything's brand new quality, stone countertops, stainless appliances. I get 1175 for a one bedroom. Almost there. It
Yeah, I
basically
mean,
counts.
yeah. Um, like I said, so Hanson's next question is: now I'm in Taiwan. If I want to look for potential opportunities, should I train myself by looking up deals in LoopNet and underwrite deals?
If you'd like to train yourself on it, yeah, numbers are numbers. You can look at any market, but you're not going to know the location until you go see it. But you can get really good at the math. That'd be my recommendation: is understand your math, because if you don't know how math works, it's much easier for other people to lie to you and get you to buy into stuff. If you can do the math, I've been pitched things before where I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't have to say that out loud. I just say, no, thank you, I'm not interested. But if you don't know math and how it works, and people are pitching you on all these ideas, you go along with it because it's going to sound great. The saying of, I've never heard or never seen a pro forma I didn't like. Well, if you can do the math, you can figure out if you like it or not.
I was just going to mention that. So, has there ever been a pro forma that I guess was I don't want to say they're not realistic, but it's the it being the most efficient or in his best possible scenario, right? A pro forma pretty much is, right? And a lot of times, like you're saying, if you don't know the numbers, it's an easy way to be like, oh yeah, this looks like a good deal until you actually know the numbers or the true numbers and break down certain things. And I think that's what hurts a lot of new investors and even people that were doing syndications before, right? They'd only see these presentations that the operators are putting out there, and it's like, oh, this my returns are going to be this, and that's kind of how the newer investors got burned.
I had to share that with Flavio when we were walking the 12plex, because a lot of people online show buying apartments. And since this will be his first apartment building, I gave him the inside scoop. But people online say, oh, I own these apartments, I'm cash flowing so much money. Apartments don't cash flow a lot for a while. Unless you're putting a ridiculous amount of money down or getting super cheap money. If you're in a stabilized market where the interest rate's 5.5 to 7, you're not going to cash flow a lot on apartments day one unless you're buying in the middle of nowhere in the West or Midwest. So I mentioned to him, I was like, you'll cash flow a little bit. You might have 1,200, 1,500 if you put 300 down. So, you're going to get an okay return, but you're really going to have to wait 4 or 5 years to really start seeing this thing rip. But in that pro forma, if it was listed on the market, the broker would say, excellent cash flow, super stable income stream, all this upside. But behind the curtain, it's like, look, you're not going to get a crazy return. You're probably cash flowing 5 to 7% in the first year.
So like Harrison mentioned earlier, he's here for the cheat codes, but you and Zuber's discussion is kind of like maybe the cheat code myth, and I think it was kind of like a lot of people join communities and whatnot, and they're hoping for that kind of secret answer or secret whisper, and that you're like, I joined this community, so there should be some kind of secret code to building wealth that I can now get access to. And but I think you kind of discussed on how, you know, a lot of people, no, we're here to tell you the secret code is to do the work, basically, and that is the simplest way to put it. But do you think what do you think is the most dangerous easy button lie people kind of hope to get or see out there, I guess, in their journey? Like, what is that easy button that they believe?
The Well, I see a lot of people say this where they're like, "Well, I'm gonna go buy these cheap rental houses, and the rent minus the PITI and the management's my cash flow. It's just that easy. I go buy a couple rental houses. I got to put 10 grand down. I'm gonna do the Section 8 thing, and that'll be what that'll be, and I'm rich." I've seen a lot of people tout that online. There's a lot of Section 8 gurus right now. They're like, I cash flow this amount. And again, if you could do the math, you can call it out. There's some people that own 150 Section 8 rentals because it's easy and low to no money down. And they're saying, oh, I cash flow over 100 grand a month. I'm like, your rentals don't bring in 100 grand a month. It doesn't make any sense. So I just make sure you do proper underwriting and math. The easy button lie is that your rent minus your PITI and your management, if you have management company doing it, is your cash flow. And that's just not true.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I think that's a lot of people get caught up in that. And then it's just like, even if you were to as a primary rate, even if you buy your own, I kind of get frustrated with realtors out there, right? They're you know telling people you qualify for this much amount, or you qualify for this amount of house, but it's, can you actually afford it, right? So it's the same thing too, right? This may be your monthly payment, but you're just not factoring in all these other costs, maintenance, things that come up, right? So it's same thing if you're buying your own primary residence, where like lenders or the realtors say, yeah, you qualify for this much of home, and you see people buy that, but it's like they can't really afford this much home, right? Because of these other payments that come up every month. Harrison Trade Better 99 says, be careful as an international investor only looking at numbers. I have worked with international investors that chased only numbers, but were burned buying in D-class markets. Yeah, I think that's very accurate. Yeah, like and especially if they don't have boots on the ground that they can trust, right? They just see photos of pictures and it's like, oh, this property looks great, right? It's rehab, it looks nice, and they don't realize that the properties surrounding it, right, or that area that they're actually in.
Yeah, there's a reason it's priced the way it is, and there's no exception to that. There is always going to be a reason. So if you think you're just getting a one-up deal and it's on the market, probably not. I mean, you could, but you're probably not. So where I heard this saying when I was getting started, wherever you go, there you are. Meaning, whatever business you build, don't be surprised that that's the business you have. And
Wait, what was it? Wherever you go, that's
wherever you go, there you are. So if you start driving down the freeway, don't be surprised that you're going 65 miles an hour next to a whole bunch of other cars, right? If you build a business of a bunch of crappy rentals, don't be surprised you wake up one day and realize you're a slumlord. It's very simple. So if you build your business off of a bunch of Class D stuff, like, you can get burned that way. If everything goes well, did you build the business you wanted to build? And some people say, well, I'm going to use this as a stepping stone. I'm going to step on this deal and then do the value add and then take that money and throw it at this deal. The problem is sometimes you get stuck with the stepping stone. So just try and find a way to buy the deals that you can see in your portfolio long term.
Hey, Chris is too. Haven't seen him in a while. He says, "Don't be surprised. It's all you. Love it. Extreme accountability." Yeah. This was one of the better questions when you and Zuber were discussing. But it was like, no equals a new question was kind of what you guys were talking about. Zuber said a no is permission to ask a new question. So what's the best example of you getting a deal by not taking the first no?
Oh, okay. I was buying a 15 unit. It took me 5 years to buy it. originally I had to say no because I didn't know what I was doing. They offered to sell me this 15 unit on the water piece of junk property. I ended up buying it. So now it's my piece of junk that I'm fixing up slowly but surely. I sent you some photos of that this weekend. They offered it 900,000, 90,000 down, seller financed. And I was underwriting based off their numbers of like, this isn't even worth 300,000. And I didn't know what I was doing. So I had to say no. Later, I bought it for 1.3 million with 100 grand down. So I paid a little bit more. But after I told them no, the market went up a little bit. I reached out and said, hey, I think I'm in a better position to buy this. And they said, no, not interested, because the market was going up. And that was a learning lesson for me, because originally I was the one that told them no. And this time they were telling me no, they were declining me. And I was like, well, is it just because you don't want to sell to me? And they're like, no, we just like the property a lot. I've owned it for 40 years. Don't really want to sell it. Like, okay. So I went back to the drawing board, and instead of just asking if they're open to selling at that point, because I had built a relationship, I had bought other stuff from them. My story started with never asking for the sale. At that point, I had bought a bunch of property from them, and this would have been a couple of years ago. So I just sent over a proposal. They had taught me how to buy real estate 0 down, seller finance first and seller finance second. So I sent a proposal. They said, no, that doesn't work for us. We would need a little bit of money down. Excise tax is expensive now. So I said, okay, well, what if we do it like this? And they said, you're getting closer. And I have all these emails still. You're getting closer, but it doesn't really do it. And I went in and talked to one of the owners. There was 2 guys. I said, well, how would you structure this if you were me? I said, well, I would do a little down payment now and a little down payment later. And if you need help with the cash flow, we can start with the lower rate and then go to a higher rate. So that's what I submitted, and they accepted it. But that deal took 5 years of me declining, them declining. I look back and like, oh, I wish I bought that for 900,000. But everybody says that. Would have been a perfect burr. I could have refinanced it already and had no money in it. But that is the price of not knowing.
I think, and I think I notice it quite a bit, for a lot of maybe the newer people that join school. I feel like they're afraid of getting no as a answer, or they almost are afraid of, I don't want to say hurting someone's feelings is the right way to put it, but they don't like making that offer because I guess they think they might be offending someone. I think, has that ever been a struggle for you to get to a point that's just comfortable making offers and not worrying about, the seller or the agent or someone that you're working with?
No, I'm not worried about hurting their feelings. I've submitted like 10 offers on one of the deals on the market right now. I just keep changing it up because they're goofy. They have it listed all wrong. All their inputs are wrong. The pricing is wrong, and he keeps telling me it's right, but hasn't sold. So I guess we know the answer on that one. I'm not worried about offending people.
Yeah, I think that's the one. If someone can get over that hurdle, then it definitely gets a lot easier, right? I think that's the one challenge people do have, and they're analyzing it so much where they're like, I want to make this offer this way, but I don't want to offend them, so they're trying to make it slightly more favorable, and they're just spending so much time. So they just make your offer, and then they'll respond, and now you have more information on what they're looking for and whatnot.
Well, and you think about it like this. When I was getting started, I bought $1 million plus property. And if someone's buying that size property or bigger or smaller, be willing to be offensive. You're looking at borrowing $1 million. You have the right to be offensive if you're indebting yourself $1 million or $500,000. It's a small fortune, right? So if you're going to commit to a $500,000 project or a $300,000 project or a $3 million project, doesn't matter. It's a small fortune for a lot of people. It's more than most people ever see in their life. You have the right to come off as a little bit offensive if that's what it takes to get yourself out there. But you got to put the offer out, because if you don't offer, someone like Mark is going to offer and they're going to get the deal.
Good point. Yasik is saying they didn't build Rome overnight. Everything that is worth time takes time. And then Hanson Liu has another question for you. He says, in your recent videos, you mentioned you should focus more on deals near your place, not driving for 3 or 4 hours. I want to know, where should I choose my location and managing properties remotely?
I'd figure out if you have any friends or family in a location, then I'd probably build out around there. But if you're buying from, was he the one from out of country?
Yes, Taiwan, I believe he said.
Yeah. So you need to have some sort of boots on the ground, whether it's family, whether it's friends. If you don't have family or friends, then make some family or friends. I guess it's hard to make family. Make some friends in the U.S. And that could be through the school community, could be through Facebook groups, but you're gonna have to narrow in on a location, at least someone you know is at. Because if you don't have anybody that you know, I mean, it's gonna be very hard. You're taking it on with the least amount of information, and when something goes wrong, you're gonna have a very tough time.
Yeah, to that point, I'm not sure if what market you're specifically interested in, or do you have some ties to? I believe you mentioned somewhere near Cody's area, but as he mentioned also, there is tons of Facebook groups out there, possibly even a school community that invests in that area or that market, right? So I would seek out those communities if that's the market you're looking at or that area, and join those Facebook groups, and or if there is a school community that invests in that area, and start accessing those people or those communities, and see what they're doing, see who their connections are, who their contractors are, or who their agents, or who they're working with, or just put yourself in those rooms with those people if that's the market that you are looking at. Harrison is saying, what would you do if your offer overly offends the seller? Is it worth coming back to the table if the seller does not respond?
I would, because eventually they'll get over their feelings if they can't sell it. That's how I feel about this multifamily building in my market. They're in their feelings right now because they want a certain price. I found a way to get them their price. They're like, "Well, that doesn't work. I need price and terms." I'm like, "Okay, well, you're going to sit on the market." They can be offended, but eventually, if they want to sell, they're either going to sell on the bigger fool theory, or they're going to sell to someone like me who called it out in the beginning and said this is going to be the price. And if they don't find the bigger fool, the idea is you find someone dumber than you to buy it. You shuffle your problem off onto a bigger fool. If that doesn't happen, then they're either going to keep it or they're going to lower the price. And so, I mean, that you can't really influence that at that point. But I've sent so many offers, and the seller's not responding at all. I'm sending it to their broker, and that is what it is.
Talking about offending the seller or hearing no. If, let's say, do you send the same offer over and over, in a sense? So let's say the agent is selling no, or the seller saying no. Are you kind of tinkering your offer every time you submit another offer, or you're kind of sending that same offer, you think, over and
I
over
sent
again?
I sent them one for a little north of 2 million on a contract. I sent them one for 2.4 million on a contract. I sent them one for 1.8 million cashed out. I sent them one after that for 1.9 million cashed out. Then I lowered it back to 1.8. I'm all over the place, but it's worth $1.8 million. That's the problem. So it's like that project is not worth a dime more than 1.8 million. Anybody who pays more than that it's unfortunate. So I've offered more than that. I even offered them 100 grand more than what it'll appraise for on cashed out terms, but they are stuck on their price. So I'm just going to keep offering it and know the offer's not staying the same.
Josh Burdick says, don't be afraid to offend a seller. They may be offending buyers with BS numbers and an unrealistic listing price. That's a great way to look at it. Corridor Chris is saying, how do you organize renovations for a turnover? Close to wrapping up my first one, and it has been hectic. Newborn, school, dad life. So you have just explained why I haven't seen you as much in school and whatnot. But how do you handle this, Cody?
You just got to have your team, and you got to have someone who's accountable for it. And then you got to do your inspections, make sure that things are getting done on time. It's easy to have delays. I have delays on my projects all the time. It's always on the smaller projects, which is a bummer. The big ones get knocked out, but you got to have the team that's accountable for it, and then you got to go do your checks and some way to have a penalty if things are delayed, and it's not their fault because life happens.
I think Dion, he likes to offer a bonus, right? If it's completed on time early, right? I think he offers a little extra or something like that. I think that's part of his strategy, I believe, also. So let's see. Going back to, like I said, the Zuber Cody interview you guys had, you guys talked about scaling fast and the blind spots that show up in year 4 or 5. So Zuber said the early blind spots of scaling fast is overconfidence and no proof of concept.
Mm-hmm.
But can you touch on that? Have you seen what's the moment you've seen investors hit the wall? Is there something that stands out in your mind?
Well, she has joined again. There's people that I see right now, and what they're doing is you buy bigger and bigger deals progressively rather than optimize the deals that you have. That is that whole I don't have proof of concept because you keep getting bigger and bigger numbers, so it seems like you're progressing. However, at the end of the day, they're either making more money or they're not, right? So there's a lot of people online that are doing the guru thing, and you got to sit back and look at are all your deals performing, and most people don't. So to Zuber's point, I didn't know if all my deals were working back then, and you come to find out, you smell the roses. Some of the roses are dead, right? You look around. I had a 24 unit that was awful. I had a 30 unit that was starting to perform. Glad I sold out of that. I was doing all the lease up work myself, but I looked around and not all the properties were doing that well. So it's easy to be excited about all the numbers, but when I right size, everything much more clear. Everything started getting a little bit more profitable. And while I'm not rich, it's doing a lot better with less now, which is good.
Hansen is saying, cool, cool. I'm guessing I'm starting to learn from the basics and your rules. Okay. Hey, Brett is here. He's a part-time firefighter. He's a full-time medic, I like to call him. He's always on the ambulance. He doesn't like that. That's why he says he's only saying hi to Cody. Flavio says, Cody, do you think the agent is showing the offers to the seller? I have some case when the agent not showing his offers to the seller, he believes.
Oh, I don't know what the rules are about bashing an agent without bashing an agent. I'd have to look into that, Flavio. But I'm not. I am not uncertain that it might not be getting to the seller.
Yeah, they are obligated to, but yeah, I'm not sure if they sometimes do, right? But
Perhaps.
yeah, yeah, hard to say. I see Jason Eworth or Jason Eworth tuning in from your channel says hello. But for me, I guess the blind spot for me was the kind of the reserves. What I thought was enough reserves went quickly, and it really slows you down. And I think you've touched on it also too. At some point, you kind of um, sometimes got to figure out how to access cash or access a way to pay, contractors or bills, right? And we've touched on it on other live streams about 0% credit cards and things like that. But I think that's the eye-opening thing is you become resourceful, right? I think that's every investor at some point in this journey, they become resourceful. And that's what separates the ones that continue, I think, and those that quit early before they start seeing a lot of the benefits. Is sometimes you got to just figure it out, and it may not be the most ideal way to go about something, but you do have to make a decision, right? Let's see, where was the I think, and then the next, this is kind of the final one you had with Zuber. It was 130 units is well greater than 230 units. You said it yourself. 130 units with no partners, cash flow is better than the 230. Can you kind of break that down a little bit?
Well, yeah, and I've got, to be fair, I have 83 units, no partners, which I am proud of. My portfolio is 8 figures outside of, so I'm very excited about that. The 130, though, I've got like 50, almost 50 that are in a 50-50 partnership or where I own more than 50%. Before, I had close to 250 rentals. However, I owned a fraction of them all, 20%, 33%, 50%. I didn't own anything by myself. I used to own it, and then I sold out to grow bigger. So I took on partners. And the problem is, like, let's say on the 39 unit, if it cash flows $5,000 a month and I want to pay myself 2,500, I have to pay the partner 2,500. So I tap the whole $5,000. Whereas on right now, no partners, if I want to pay myself 2,500, I can still stack 2,500 for extra purchases or extra projects that aren't in the scope of work right now. I don't have to tap the properties as hard. If you take on partners and you own a 12plex that cash flows $2,000 a month or $3,000 a month, if you want to take out $1,000, you might tap majority or all of the cash flow from that asset because you have to pay the other partner an equal amount. So back then there was just a bunch of partners, and so if I wanted to take anything, we'd below the monthly cash flow, and we'd still be stacking reserves, but it's so much slower to build up reserves that way rather than just stacking the extra cash flow that you would have paid yourself if you don't need it. So that's where I'm coming from on that. Having less by yourself is worth a lot. And a lot of people keep scaling to oblivion with partners, but they never get to experience that side of it, of just owning apartment buildings without partners. It's very nice.
Before we get into Hanson's question, I do see Andy from Ohio tuning in. 14 and sunny, he says, in Southeast Ohio. Chris Webb is from Virginia for a few more weeks. He said, yes, he is moving to Idaho in January for the new year. So his travel arrangements for the ORAT event in February has changed. So instead of coming from Virginia, he'll be coming from Idaho to the event. He's going to be taking on a professor position at Lewis Clark State, I believe he said.
Cool.
And if people haven't heard, before we get to Hanson's question, if you are on the fence about coming to the event in February, I believe Zuber said he is going to stop ticket sales on January 15th. So that way he can plan for the food and all the arrangements. So January 15th, I believe, is a cutoff date for your ticket purchase. Hanson Liu says, what would be your first step analyzing multifamily? From pictures online, or just walk straight for actual room tour?
Well, I like doing the Google Maps view. That's been something that stayed consistent over the last 7 years. So I want to get an idea of the location if I'm not local, and then I'll drive over and actually check it out. But you can do your napkin math on how it's going to pencil out and check out if you even like the building from the photos and the buildings around. And then you can go do the tour, but I wouldn't say go drive and do a tour first, especially when you're getting started, because then you may not like it. And then you're like, oh, I'm not going to do the math. And then you don't get the reps. So I do the math, spend the 10, 15 minutes it takes you to underwrite it, and then go check it out if you like it.
Hey, I see Chris Wissing also tuning in. I believe he's bringing his son to the event. So Cody, you might have a one-on-one with Chris Wissing's son, who's going to take advantage of the free ticket that Zuber's offering for some teenagers to attend. Charles is saying, I noticed you haven't talked about peer pressure. Like, let's distract his attention and insert a goal that your wife wants. Oh, wait, I think so. Oh, Does your wife maybe does Ashley have any goal for you folks? I guess maybe in 2020. I think that's what he may be asking, or a goal in this journey.
Yeah, we definitely got goals. And one of them is to put a $250,000 in an account we don't touch. So we're going to work on doing that next year. Eventually, we're going to secure housing in Gig Harbor. I'm not sure what that looks like right now. That might be a house that we buy creatively in Gig Harbor and then rent for a couple years before we move. That's a goal. Because eventually we want to move back to the west side. That will happen. But we're just wrapping up business first. So we've got monetary goals. We've got fitness goals that we've set for ourselves. Health goals are really important to us. And really important. Family goals. When we have a family and how much we go visit our family, stuff like that.
So there also is Chris Wissing's YouTube channel. So go check it out. He is showing a lot of his rehab work that he's doing. He's actually getting the kids involved also doing the work too. So it's super cool. I think we put a goal of getting him to, I think it was 100 subscribers by the end of the one rental at a time event in February. So that's kind of the plan for that. But where was the other? Oh, Chris Webb is saying, yes, Google Maps is great for a quick preview, but only after the math, I guess he's saying. And then Hanson Liu follows up, yeah, I can start from the Google Maps. Thanks for the valuable information. Yeah. Yeah, Hanson, I'm not sure. I mean, if you ever have thought about it, Cody and I are both a part of Michael Zuber's One Rental at a Time school community also. So for, $20 a month, you can get a great access to, 500 members, but little over 500 members now, kind of doing different things. And they have a multi-family accountability call. Cody runs the Gen Z call on Saturdays. So yeah, you get a lot of access to people doing a lot of the stuff it sounds like you may be interested in. So maybe come check it out. And you're not committed. You can always cancel after 1 month also. So $20 a month, come check it out. Chris Webb is asking, Cody, are you in Tennessee? I know you were, but are you still? And are you moving back west? Did you like the East Coast?
Tennessee was all right. I'm not still there. I live in central Washington, and moving west means moving 3 hours west of where I live right now.
Yeah, so Chris Webb has been all over the place too. I think he's been in, if I'm not, Arizona, Colorado. He's in Virginia right now, but he's going to be moving to Idaho now take that professor position. Yep, Chris Wissing says we are halfway there, so he must be around 50 subscribers. So yeah, we'll get you. Well, we'll see. We'll see how friendly you are in Vegas if we can get you to 100 subscribers. But yeah, let's kind of, that was, like I said, that was a very good interview between you and Zuber. Like you kind of turned the tables on him, asked him some questions that maybe he hasn't been asked before. So it was good to see where his thought process is. But I also kind of want to wrap this week's episode up with your most recent video of 2026 kind of investor goals and plans. So what was that video all about for your channel?
Putting goals out is important. We talked about some of the objectives for this upcoming year regarding liquidity, and I think it's important to put what you're shooting for out into the universe. And people can hold you accountable or say, you changed what you were going for. Why'd you do that? And if there's a reason, there's a reason. If there's not, it's like, just didn't hit it. So I changed my goals to feel accomplished. Some people will do that. So putting it out there is important. We did health goals, but we're coming around the turn of the year. So figuring out what you really want for the upcoming year and then seeing how close you hit is a fun task.
I think one of the goals you mentioned was 250K in a kind of like a reserve account, right? So Lynn is asking, 250K is what you have in mind for reserves. What is the target monthly cash flow you think is enough for you and your wife?
Well, as far as numbers go on that, we have enough now. I mean, she could quit her job if she wanted to. She's just taking that money and plowing it into other investments. But once you get past a certain point, I guess Dion talks about it. You try and spend money. You budget how much you have to spend versus how much you can spend, right? That flip. And so rather than trying to necessarily just increase the cash flow, I'm trying to pay down some debts because we have enough cash flow to be good. But if we paid down our debts, it would be more solid. It's like the idea of right sizing the portfolio. Well, now it's time to hammer some debts. So I've got about 400. I've got $425,000 of debt I have to pay off next year, out of interest of paying it off and out of necessity. I either have to pay it off or refinance it. So I'm going to figure out a way to pay it off. And then the year after that, I have like 200,000 or 205,000, and then I'm chilling. So next year's the big push, and then it's downhill from there. But once that's done, then I'm probably gonna relax it for a minute and then scale up again.
Yes, Hanson is saying, yeah, health is very important. I know you still teach gymnastics 3 times a week. Appreciate your momentum. Yeah. Do you,
Yep.
yeah, do you, so I think, Zuber, that has become a huge focus for him now once he's, reached financial freedom. And I think, we kind of were discussing it on a live stream with some of my other guests the other week, is kind of that balance. And I think it's, and I'm not sure how you look at it, but I think it's difficult to have that balance in a sense when you are trying to get to this financial freedom. And I definitely feel like you want to get there though, so that you can find these other important things in your life. Like Zuber, like now the health has become very critical for him. And I think you even touched on it, right? As far as, I think you said something about trying to get in shape at 65 or something, right? I think you were mentioning that, yes, it's so much easier to do at 50 or whatever, at a younger age, than trying to change all these bad habits when, once you turn 65 or something, right? So is that kind of your thought process too, like?
Yeah, and I've coached gymnastics up to well into the 60s, like people in their 60s. So I've done adult gymnastics. I've coached youth gymnastics. I mainly coach youth now, especially. I don't coach any adults. But it is a lot easier if you make it a priority sooner. And again, wherever you go, there you are. So if you wake up one day and wonder why you're out of shape, there was a lot of days that it was not a priority. And for good or for bad, it is what it is. You can't cheat your health. And so get it. So you got to focus on it. And now Zuber's focusing on it, and he's getting a lot of results, which is wonderful. I have family members who are doing the same thing. They neglected it for a long time, and now they're focused on it, and it's incredible, the results. And you put a little bit of effort for an extended period of time, 6 months, 12 months, you can change your life. But you do have to focus on it. You can't just say, I'm just going to do the wealth thing. I'm not just going to go get money. I got a little bit I was a chub monster a couple of years ago. Fixed that, but uh, it's easy to let it go if you don't prioritize it.
Absolutely. But on the flip side of that, I would say, y- y- I probably focused more on that early in my career and neglected the financial side of it. So it has been a struggle for me in a sense where, like, probably being in less ideal shape than I'd want to be, because it has slipped dramatically compared to what I was doing before.
Mm-hmm.
But my mindset is like, yeah, once I get to this certain point, then it's gonna be flipped a little bit more, where the health will become a priority more again also. But to me, the financial part definitely is going to allow you to do a lot more things, right? uh yeah, I always give Chris Webb a hard time that I can't edit the videos because his head doesn't fit in the screen. So I always need him to sit like so many feet back so that his head can fit while we're recording. Jason Worth from your channel saying Chub Monster. Well, we'll wrap it up with these last few questions. But Chris Webb is saying, Cody and Mark, do you tell other investors your goals more so than your family? Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's an easy one.
Yeah, if my family asked, I mean, information's kind of like water, right? It goes to the most efficient path possible. And investors ask me about my goals a lot more than my family.
Yeah, that's true too. I guess Lynn is asking same question for me as far as she asked you about the maybe target monthly cash flow. Yeah, mine is way lower than probably. I think a lot of it I factor into where I'm at as age wise too. So if I was younger, I think I would definitely be more along Cody and even Millennial Mike. I was surprised to hear him talking the other day about how he wants this huge portfolio. I don't know if I'd want that big, but I'd probably be definitely pushing it a little bit further if I was a lot younger.
What was the number he said? I didn't hear it.
I don't know the number he said, but it almost has a sense of, I almost feel like I don't know if he has a running for office in the future. Like I almost get this sense that he wants to dive into politics also and something like that. But also the freedom so that he is untouchable in a sense where if he has this money, then he's not, he's untouchable in all aspects in a sense, right? He's not reliant on any part of the system to some
Mm-hmm.
extent, I guess. So that's the kind of feel I get from him. But back to kind of Lynn's question. I mean, yeah, for me, it's gonna be like 12K, which so that's I feel comfortable walking away now, but I see the vision of where. So my pension won't be till 55 unless they sign off on my medical early discharge. So that's an option too. So it could be even higher. And then, but I also see where I don't need as much money right now in a sense because I'm not going to be doing a lot of the traveling as much now because my son is just, I can't just be going all over the place. And even my parents are getting older. So I can't take these super long trips. So, but for me, it's easy for me to walk away. So I'm probably done next year. Um, but then it's also allowing me to do this, take care of my parents, still travel once in a while with my son when I can, and but it's not going to be like Dion, how he's traveling and then he's going to go straight to Vegas, for 3 months. There's no way I can be that apart from my parents for that long. I mean, my brother can probably help out for a couple weeks at a time at the most, but um, yeah, no more kids for me. Then that's I'm not sure what Cody's. I don't know if that's in the plans for him. I believe you talked about it, a family. You guys wanted to start at
Yeah,
some point, right?
that is in the plans. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, yeah. No more planned kids for me, Lynn. That's not on the table. But Harrison's asking, yeah, someplace in North Carolina. I'll probably end up getting a place there too. Coach Nick Massey, Bitcoin. He's looking in Charlotte. I know that. But yeah, I love North Carolina, South Carolina area. But yeah, this, like I said, this was a great episode. I want to dig into. I love how you're kind of flipping the table on Zuber recently. A lot of times in a lot of your guys' discussions. So you guys record on Mondays. I'm not sure. Do you guys have a set day when that recording actually comes out? The one where or it just comes out? Yeah.
No, it comes out when his team puts it out.
Yeah. Okay. So they record on Mondays, and just be on the lookout for his episodes with Michael Zuber. And I believe you've been putting them on your channel also too, right?
Yep, I usually put them out on Saturdays.
Saturdays. And so he got Tuesday, Thursday is Cody's regular videos come out on his
Mm-hmm.
channel, and then Saturday, I guess he'll be reposting Michael Zuber's video. Like I said, if everyone hasn't got their tickets yet, January 15th, I believe Zuber is cutting off ticket sales for the one rental at a time event. And just a reminder, I won't be live streaming tomorrow with my regular Brandon Potts because I have surgery I got to be there at 6 a.m. in the morning. But maybe we'll get you and Brandon on because he says have found the light maybe with Build to Rent. He said Cody reached out to me and was just amazed at the numbers.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm working on building 21 uh, townhomes on a property. Originally, it was going to be less, but found a way to make it more, and so that's cool. Some land I already own.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe we'll get you and Brandon on the same live stream one day, and you guys can dig into that because Brandon definitely is killing it in his area also with that strategy. But yeah, thanks for doing this, Cody. And then I will see you on the Gen Z call Saturday, and then I'll see you next week Monday.
Cool. Sounds good.